For Sunday, February 3rd, Super Sunday, you've found the Georgia Gang. And topping our agenda today, yes, indeed, it is Super Sunday. And in Georgia, it's Super Stacey. We'll also drill down into crime in the Buckhead area of Atlanta. Some of the stories up for grabs on the Georgia Gang.
From the Fox 5 studios, the Georgia Gang starts now.
And we are glad you could be with us on Super Sunday. We could say it. There's no infringement of copyright. It is the day of the Super Bowl. See, I said it, Super Bowl, not the big game, the Super Bowl. We're also going to assume that if you're in Atlanta from Boston or Los Angeles, you're probably not watching us because you probably don't want our drill down into local Atlanta and Georgia news. So we're going to just kiss the Super Bowl, welcome, enjoy it, and we're going to do what we do, which is Georgia politics. And leading us off is Lori Geary with the big political story in Georgia this week.
Well, Dick, it is another big week for Democrat Stacey Abrams. She'll be in the national spotlight as she gives the Democratic response to President Trump's State of the Union. She's also using the Super Bowl to draw attention to what has become her issue, voting rights.
Smile.
I'm Republican Natalie Crawford, County Commissioner in North Georgia.
And I'm Democrat Stacey Abrams from Atlanta.
If you're watching the Super Bowl in Georgia, this is the ad you'll see from Stacey Abrams' voting rights group, Fair Fight Georgia. The Democrat joined forces with the Habersham County Republicans, saying they may not agree on everything, but they do agree every vote should be counted. They're also using the opportunity to push for hand-marked paper ballots, rather than electronic voting machines that print out a paper trail. This week, we also saw history-making news from Washington Democrats as they announced Stacey Abrams would give the Democratic rebuttal to President Trump's State of the Union speech, now set for Tuesday. Abrams will be the first African-American woman to give this address. In a tweet, Abrams responded, quote, "At a moment when our nation needs to hear from leaders who can unite for a common purpose, I am honored to be delivering the State of the Union response." Now, Abrams is also the first person not currently holding elected office to be selected for the rebuttal of the State of the Union.
And we were saying she might be the first Georgian ever selected to do a rebuttal for the State of the Union.
I think so. We were
Can't think of anyone.
We were trying to fact check it. We think she is the first. Yeah. There is good news and bad news when you are selected to do the rebuttal of the State of the Union. The first person I remember doing it after Ronald Reagan was the then Speaker of the U.S. House, Jim Wright from Fort Worth. Mm-hmm. And the poor man never knew what he was up against. You can't follow Ronald Reagan. Now, can you follow Donald Trump? I think so. And I think one thing we know about Stacey Abrams is she is a terrific speaker. Agree with that?
Absolutely.
Yep.
Yeah.
She's an orator.
I agree.
She's really good. She's very smooth. She talks in great sound bites.
Yep.
She's a very good orator.
I think what you're going to see are two significant contrasts, and I think that's good for the American people. And I think a lot of people who maybe don't follow politics as much, maybe this is a good civics lesson. It always has been in the past with State of the Unions and the responses. So Stacey Abrams is going to be laying out probably platforms, in my opinion, that are going to be even more to the left than other Democratic responses over the last few cycles. The party has changed since Bill Clinton's years, and so I think it's going to be interesting to see what exactly she's going to say and how extreme she's going to be.
Look, this is a huge moment for Stacey Abrams. I mean, let's not try to downplay this. I mean,
it's big.
Yeah, I mean, to have the opportunity to give the response, and to your point, Phil, we know Donald Trump is going to fire up his GOP base. His whole speech is going to be about base-oriented policies that keep them fired up. So she's going to have this unique opportunity to really talk to the world and to the nation. And so I think it's three things that really come to mind. I think they picked her because, one, you know, she's an African-American woman, and we know that African-American women are the backbone of the Democratic Party. But then more importantly, she's from the South, and she's from Georgia. And a lot of folks who know that we got a pathway to victory against Donald Trump, it's got to come through the South. And at a time where Florida, North Carolina, and possibly Virginia may be up for grabs, Georgia is now a battleground state. And then the last thing is I think she's going to put front and center some of the voter irregularities, voter problems, and voter suppression conversations that we've been having in this country that is going to be now on the nation.
I hope she does. That infuriates me.
I know it's going to get you riled up. I'm back this week. It's going to get you riled up this week.
Everybody has the right to vote. This is a free country. This is the world's greatest democracy. Everybody has the right to vote. Almost everybody. Even in parts of Texas, illegal aliens have the right to vote.
Well, even Stacey Abrams said non-citizens should be allowed to vote. That's pretty extreme.
No, that's
you're
misquoting her a little bit there.
No, that's what she said.
I think
AJC was the source.
Between the two of you, there's a difference to split here, and I'm going to turn to Lori because I don't think Stacey Abrams can afford to speak of the recent radical Democratic agenda. You know, things like infanticide, allowing non-citizens to vote, all that kind of thing.
And please list all the things that Trump has done as radical. I mean, we're going to talk about radicalism. I think Donald Trump is the architect of radicalism right now.
Tax cuts,
all this other stuff.
But I also think, look,
Stacey Abrams might have a different view.
Stacey Abrams did not play it safe in the Georgia election. I mean, she went far to the left. She did a different strategy, you know, and she got close in Georgia. Let's face it. But I think also, I'm going to try to change the subject a little bit, is that she is on a national stage again. Washington Democrats love her. So if there's any question, I haven't talked to her, Theron, you may have, if there's any question on whether she's going to run against David Perdue, I think this kind of sums it up. That why wait 4 years? She's hot right now, so why wait 4 years?
Some of the people that are close to her, Lori, I have not talked to Stacey Abrams directly, but I've talked to some folks close to her. They're not sort of saying that she's definitely in for 2020. I agree with you. I don't think you go and give the response to the State of the Union and don't capitalize on that national tension and then come back and run. But, you know, look, she's got this organization, Fair Fight Action, that you talked about, that she's doing a Super Bowl commercial. So she may actually pass on 2020 and just figure out a way to stay relevant and then run for governor again. I mean, who knows? But
that's in political time, though, that's an eon. I mean, 4 years from now,
well,
lots can happen.
This points to 2020, clearly. Yeah. This points to a race against David Perdue.
Well, but you know, David Perdue is a little different. You know, I mean, he has sort of been Donald Trump's main defender and also his main promoter. And we know that President Trump, my good friend Mark Morrison told me, state representative, said to make sure I refer to him as President Donald Trump. It was a state rep. But I think that she's calculating what the turnout is going to be, because while we know there'll be increase in turnout as far as Democrats, there's also going to be an increase in turnout amongst Republicans in the state as well in the presidential election year.
No, that makes sense. Yeah. I mean, I think to your point, if she went against Governor Kemp in 4 years, the turnout is different. And so I think she is looking at the model, but you make a good point. She's going to be hot politically right now. She's the woman of the hour in the Democratic Party.
We know money will pour in for her.
But you're making a good point. Is how much is she going to throw to the center, and how much is President Trump going to move to the center on some things? They both have to think about that.
They do, and I think she's practicing her speech.
I hope they don't do gimmicks. You know, remember last year they had one of those hapless Kennedy grandchildren.
Yeah.
Stuck in some obscure place.
Both sides will have probably the victims of illegal aliens and also the sympathetic illegal aliens.
One year they had some guy from Kentucky in some bar and grill in Frankfurt or somewhere.
And don't forget Rubio with the famous taking a break to drink
Bobby
some water.
Jindal in some
Rubio, that's right.
Some...
And I just hope they let Stacey Abrams speak. And I hope that she doesn't try to fudge it and she lays out the true agenda of the Democratic Party. Because I think that's a clear win for Donald Trump if she does that. You know, we could start with Governor Northam of Virginia and his comments and so forth. She's a good speaker. She's a very, very bright person. Let her talk. Don't add it all up with gimmicks, you know, that sort of thing.
That's good advice. I agree.
That's what I hope. And of course, as the Democrats in Georgia move left this week, they chose Nikema Williams, an obscure former state senator, as the state party chair.
Well, she's a current state senator.
Yeah. Current state senator.
Oh yeah. Well, she got arrested. I thought maybe they'd kick her out over
there. But that don't make her obscure. You know that makes
You're right.
her.
She's not obscure if she's a state senator.
Yeah. Okay.
But she is awaiting charges.
Yeah. I mean she she was the vice chair with DuBose Porter for a long time and won a convincing race. So I just want to congratulate her. I think she's an excellent choice to be DPG chair. And I think what you're kind of hinting at, Dick, is that we see a lot of the national stage, sort of the left-wing policies that have now become mainstream policies of the Democratic Party.
Right.
I think Senator Williams knows from her experience of running campaigns and running for elective office is that there's got to be a confluence of the two. You got to figure out a way to fire up your base, but also you got to go back to the middle and pull some of these particularly suburban women back.
She was a top official of Planned Parenthood. The pro-lifers are not going to like her.
But the fact, too, that she's from rural Georgia, or she's from rural parts,
right.
Will help. You know, she's like, I understand the plight of rural Georgians, and so, you know, they really have to get Democrats really have to get back in there and come up with a strategy for the rural part of the state, which really, I mean, went all the way for
Nikema Williams
Kemp.
calls Brian Kemp an illegal governor, and all of this, you know, radical.
Well, that fires up
that's
the
not going to
Democratic
fire
base.
up anybody in rural Georgia, I wouldn't think.
It fires up the Democratic
Well,
base.
the responsibility
Well,
of
if the Democrats base is black women, yeah, it fires
I mean, if you
them
were
up.
to ask, you know,
But it's the center that counts in Georgia elections.
But your good friend John Watson would tell you that, you know, he struggled. I've talked to him. You talked to him. I mean, he had to fire up his Republican base, and he did a really good job of that. But the Republicans are also trying to figure out a way to move to the middle too.
It's all in who gets the center moving over.
All right, we got to get out. When we come back, by the way, that was all about, just to sum that up, this is Georgia's own Stacey Abrams delivering the rebuttal to President Donald Trump on Tuesday night after the State of the Union address in Congress. So when we come back, a little more meat and potatoes, the MARTA workers negotiating for a new contract, and some serious issues about crime in Buckhead. Stay with us.
Have a question or comment for the Georgia Gang? Email them at georgiagang@foxtv.com.
If there was a public glitch to be seen in the days leading up to today's Super Bowl, it would be the performance of MARTA, Atlanta's rapid transit agency. And there was a union contract up for grabs. It was to be voted on yesterday. And we had a clear sick out,
Well, I think
driving MARTA to court.
I think it was a small glitch because, let's face it, a lot of the folks in town for the Super Bowl are not taking MARTA buses. More than likely, they're taking rail to some events. It did get them attention. It got them some PR. They were 130 were out on Monday, 80 on Tuesday. Wednesday was 41. So they're, you know, they were in court to fight it out. But this was a way for them to get attention. But I just don't think it was the right way to get the attention.
Well, they also realize, too, that it's against state law. If this is actually so-called sick out as a strike, they could be prosecuted. So I think by the time we're taping, it's faded out.
Well, and also CEO Jeff Parker was very careful this week to say, hey, this is wrong. I mean, to do a sick out is totally wrong. I mean, people couldn't get to and from the work. People couldn't get to their families. But also, I think he also understands the sensitivity of these workers. And these are workers who want better pay. They want better pay. They want better wages. And so there's a way to do it. And so I was very happy, to Lori's point, that MARTA immediately came out and had a solution. I mean, you know, you have people not showing up to work. I mean, can you imagine if folks, you know, here at Fox 5 decided one morning not to show up to work? I mean, the TV channels will be delayed and everything. And so he's working through it. I know there's a lot of legal talk. And so I believe that at the end of the day, it's a challenge for MARTA to make sure that these workers get fair compensation, but there's a way that you go about doing that. And I think to do the sick out, you know, really caused MARTA some trouble.
But again, in this run-up to the Super Bowl, that was the only sort of little glitch, and you're right, it's not a huge one.
Right.
I don't think any out-of-town visitors are riding MARTA buses.
And
I think they're riding the rails.
And MARTA made a decision to start the 24-hour rail service a day early, just to make sure that they were on top of things. So I think that was a good decision.
Although our own Dale Russell did have a report, and I hope there's a follow-up on it, there might be a shortage of limo drivers here in Atlanta.
Because state law prohibits bringing in out-of-state limo drivers.
Right, and that ought to be changed. I don't understand that law.
Yeah, that's an interesting law. But look, you know, shout out to the Uber, Lyft drivers who do Uber X, and I don't do much Lyft. You know, my good friend Nick Giuliano would like to hear that. But no, I think it gives the Uber driver, I think it levels the playing field. But I did not know that that was a law here. I mean, that's very interesting. I think you'll see that come up in this legislative session.
All right, so now let's switch to a vexing problem for the city of Atlanta in particular, and that's crime. Phil, I think last week you mentioned Mary Norwood had written Keisha Lance Bottoms. One of y'all mentioned that.
I did, yeah.
That she had written the mayor and said, come to Buckhead and talk to us about the crime issue.
Well, that's right.
Now, we don't think Keisha Lance Bottoms is going to do that, by the way.
Well, Mayor Bottoms, to her credit, actually, and I went to the Buckhead Coalition speech last Monday, and she addressed crime. I didn't like what I heard. She was claiming that crime was down. Well, no, it isn't, and that's to the point of the Norwood letter. Of course, Mary Norwood is talking about Buckhead, which is Zone 2 in police parlance. Zone 2 crime is way up. Zone 5 crime is way up. The mayor forgot to mention that when she's talking about overall crime. crime, and plus crime is self-reported by the police, which makes you wonder, but that's a story for another day. The point is, and I think we have all agreed on this, we did get a nice pay raise. We're trying to get more recruits, and I think we need to have more of a police presence in especially Zone 2 and Zone 5.
But speaking on the subject of candor and honesty, I was very surprised to see a deputy police chief, with whom I'm not familiar, go on television and say, and blame the courts. He had one of those car slider suspects in custody, and he said the guy had been arrested for 9 felonies and was out on a $1,000 bond.
Well, how frustrating for APD. They're doing their jobs, and then they have no control over what happens.
He called it foolishness in the courts.
In the Fulton County Court. And you see some of the crimes that have been committed, and these folks are out the next day. I can understand why the folks in Buckhead are so frustrated. And I think also, you know, to me, I think the sign of a really good leader is to always listen, and especially listening to constituents. And we've seen some successful ones. You know, Governor Deal left with a high approval rating because he was known to listen. And I think the folks who are on this Facebook page with a heavy presence, it's Fighting Crime in Buckhead and Beyond, have really asked several times for a meeting with the mayor. And then they went to social media because they were getting nowhere. So I just think that if the mayor could listen to the constituents in Buckhead and hear their concerns, it would really help.
And I think one quick thing, Theron, I think that these permissive magistrate judges you just touched on, they are letting these criminals out on the street, some of them with rap sheets a mile long, and that's a huge problem.
9 felony arrests.
Well, let me respond to Laura's
We got to
point.
get out.
No, when we come back, I want to respond.
Say it quick.
No, I want to respond because I think that we didn't characterize the mayor's
we'll take a profit center
public
break,
safety
and
plan
we'll let you come
in
back.
next segment.
Okay, come at me.
We'll return
I won't
in
come
just a minute.
Join the discussion on the Georgia Gang Facebook page and watch past episodes on the Georgia Gang YouTube channel.
So we want to hear more from Theron on that subject. And
That you are the host of this show, and I apologize for doing that.
No, but I think we should note that Mary Norwood is a defeated mayoral candidate.
Twice.
Which means that Keisha Lance Bottoms, the victor, is not necessarily going to answer her directly, but there is a crime issue in Buckhead that I believe Keisha Lance Bottoms has got to address.
So I think what we can't get into is sort of prioritizing certain sectors of Atlanta over others. You know, I live in Buckhead. So yes, Buckhead is different. But there's other areas in the city, Midtown, Southwest Atlanta.
Well, Buckhead's where the money is.
But wait, not with an increase in crime this big. I mean, you've got 34%
hold on, Lori.
increase in car
I didn't cut you off. I'll let you state your opinion. You're not going to cut me off.
Okay, go ahead.
All right. But my point is this. The mayor's not going to respond to a woman who's run unsuccessfully for mayor twice. What I think she will respond to Lori's point, and I will be more than willing to help in this case, is to have a very civil meeting with these residents who aren't talking about crime. I mean, I should be in that meeting because I'm affected by it too. But I do think once we get into this point where we now want to say, and let's just say what it is, a predominantly white area of the city of Atlanta, where we like to say where all the money lies.
Which didn't vote for Keisha Lance Bottoms.
Well, but this is the difference with that mayor. She went up there, and I'm so happy you talked about the Buckhead CID. Not only did she go up there and give a rousing speech, she was well received. A lot of folks, she stayed after, she talked to people. She knows that there is an issue of crime and public safety in the entire city with a little bit more emphasis on Buckhead right now. But what I don't want to do is sort of overshadow her commitment to public safety in the city. Overall crime in the city is down. You do have a spike in Zone 2, particularly in Buckhead.
Murders were up. You forgot to tell people that, and shootings were up.
I just think when people are afraid to go pump gas, there's a big issue that the mayor really has to address.
And she is, I mean, and I think also Chief Shields.
Let me interrupt you. In fairness to the mayor and in fairness to the police chief, Erica Shields, they've been preoccupied with something much bigger.
Right.
So Mary Norwood's letter was sort of ill-timed.
This has been going on for a year.
I understand that. And I think what I mentioned before about the deputy police chief weighing in and attacking the court system, I think that's the direction the city's going to have to go. Because you're not going to stop these people. You got to keep getting behind bars.
And I think the mayor is a very effective communicator. So if she just even gives the percent, look, we're on it. And she meets with these citizens. We're on it. This is what we're doing. This is our plan. She brings in Chief Shields. I think would help too. It's just they just want.
She might want to the mayor might want to cooperate with the feds because a lot of these are gang-related crimes, and she needs to be cooperating more with the feds, and she has not been doing that over the last year.
Jesus Christ, are you kidding me, Phil?
She said she doesn't want to work with ICE.
She's been cooperating with the feds on this ongoing investigation.
She cooperates.
Yeah, she does. I mean, she did something that you didn't personally like.
She doesn't honor detainers.
Yeah, you know,
and I'll tell you
They've been
what.
preoccupied. I'm telling you.
Well,
the Super Bowl's taking the oxygen out of the room.
They weren't preoccupied last year.
Well, yes,
Well, look, to all my Buckhead residents, all right? My fellow white, black, Asian, Hispanic Buckhead residents, right?
Gay, straight, the great mosaic of America.
You missed some. You got your talking points?
No,
down
I
there?
don't need them. Listen, we will be okay. We will work together, all right? And we will have a smart policing strategy that involves the city of Atlanta and the mayor and chief of police.
And you know who's going to have a
and I will go find this Facebook page, and I will add myself and see what all the chat
You know
is.
who's
We'll be robbed and carjacked together in unity.
And who's going to have a big Super Bowl weekend? Kwanzaa Hall, the former Atlanta city councilman. He's got 25,000 fresh dollars to use for this great Super Bowl weekend. Severance pay for 13 months in the employment of an agency of the city. $25,000 severance for 13 months work. Do you think I could get that? Where would I go?
Mayor Bottoms ought to hang her head in shame. This is outrageous. I still don't buy the fact she never knew that Hall was brought on board January 1st, and then all of a sudden she didn't know anything. And then this payment, it's outrageous. How many? That could go to law enforcement.
You know, Kwanzaa Hall is getting a lot of name ID earned media on this show. I mean, he'll have a chance to probably run for citywide office.
I don't think he could win. I don't think he'd win with black, white. You know.
Yeah, I'll coach you on it. I'll coach you on it.
Yeah.
But no, it's okay. Listen, at the end of the day, people give severance packages to folks in the private sector and public sector every day.
Not after 13 months of
employment. He never turned in any work. That's what you forgot.
He didn't do the work either.
He didn't do any work. They're waiting for his so-called reports that he never did.
Listen, the gentleman
They're waiting to see if he knows where Proctor Creek is.
He has moved on. He's no longer employed.
I like Kwanzaa.
Let's let it go.
I just want to know where you go to get $25,000 severance for 13
He
months
does a
work.
lot in the community, which I have said before, so maybe he will make a donation, to
He was
charities.
qualified to actually promote. I actually did a really good job of promoting Proctor Creek. He did a really good job of promoting Proctor Creek.
He has ruined whatever good record he has.
Hey, you know what we didn't get to? We didn't even get the General Assembly. And that's all right.
I'll
because,
get to it in winners and losers. So
okay, good. All right.
Count on me.
When we come back, we'll count on Phil. Stay with us.
Time now for the week's winners and losers.
And thank you for finding us today on Fox's digital platform and on YouTube. Appreciate your making the effort to join us on this Sunday. We'll do winners and losers, starting with Darren.
Good. The Democratic Party of Georgia elected their new elected officials, their new leaders for the party. So I'll just name their names because I know we're running quick. So Nikema Williams, new chair. Ted Cherry is the new first vice chair. B. Wynn, Adrian White, Sarah Todd, Jason Estevez, and Justin Holzenbach. This is actually the youngest slate of officers ever to be elected to the DPG. And also want to give Senator Renee Utterman and Senator Nan Orrock a big shout out. They are the co-sponsors and everyone who signed on to this piece of legislation. This is the Equal Rights Amendment to the U.S. Constitution. Georgia is not on that list, and so I want to give those senators a big shout out and all the other senators who signed on to this piece of legislation.
All right, Phil?
Well, I have to say the loser is the so-called Equal Rights Amendment because it lost in 1982, and it's a 7-year ratification process. And unless my math is off, 1982 was the end of it. But anyhow, my winner is Nikema Williams, the new Democrat Party chairman. She's a radical socialist. It's a win for the Republican Party. I think Republicans would enjoy going after her. With regard to the legislature, Dick, my winner is going to be Brandon Beach, the state senator from Alpharetta. He's going to introduce local option pari-mutuel horse wagering, a great revenue. Let's keep an eye on that one. That time may come. And I think I would look for also from Senator Beach a constitutional amendment to allow destination resort gambling. So keep an eye on that one.
Beach is a good man.
All right, Lori.
Yes. I am going to make my winner 8-year-old Kendall Beggarly. The medical marijuana community is mourning this weekend because of her loss. She went to sleep, I believe it was on Wednesday night, and never woke up. She suffered from a seizure disorder, and she was one of the faces of the medical marijuana fight in Georgia for several years. So prayers go out to her family and to the medical marijuana community. That's a really tight-knit group. Also, my winner is the Henry County School Board because they overturned the suspension of Christian Filon, and he was the 12-year-old boy who went to school and bought his lunch with a counterfeit $20 bill that he didn't know know was counterfeit. So they finally overturned that, which was common sense.
I agree with you on all counts there. And one more legislative item. Phil, Jeff Duncan, the Lieutenant Governor, is trying to overturn some of Nathan Deal's appointments in his lame duck phase.
That's right.
Including
the argument,
regents. Is that going to happen?
I think it could go, when looking in the crystal ball, to court, because what he's saying is that after the special session in November, all of the appointments by then Governor Deal are null and void because they didn't get Senate confirmation. And so it may be up to new Governor Brian Kemp to reappoint people.
We'll try to get to that next week when we have a more usual broadcast. My winners, I guess Miguel Almiron. We lose him in Atlanta, so that's a loss, but it's a huge win for him. He becomes the highest priced Major League Soccer player in our league's history. He's going to England to play for them. And if you're related to the Marist School, as I am, as a parent of a former Marist student, the Super Bowl today, it's all about Sean McVay, the coach of the LA Rams. Win or lose. See you next week on the Georgia Gang.
Go Rams.
Yes.
The opinions expressed in this broadcast are those of the panelists appearing in this program.